folks. Welcome back to another episode of Forgotten Knowledge. You know, it's been 50 years since I graduated from college, and quite frankly, I can't see how young people and or their parents can even afford college in this day and time. Most of the youngsters that I know that have graduated recently have been faced with a mountain of student loan debt that they're going to have to pay back for years and years and years. Fortunately for me, it was not that way a half century ago. As I've told you before on previous episodes of this show, my father had no formal education, and he therefore was not a big proponent of me going to college. No one in my family on either side of my family tree had attended college before I did. And so he was a little reluctant, but he didn't stand in my way either. I think primarily because he thought I probably wasn't smart enough to be a farmer, and maybe I needed a little bit of extra education to get an off-farm job like a teacher or veterinarian or a doctor or something. But he didn't stand in my way for going, but he didn't pay for it either. Back then, I worked off-farm jobs in the summer to save up a little money to go to college. Now, my folks did take care of my livestock while I was away at college, and that was a huge help. He didn't want to give me money, but he would take care of my cattle for me. And so each year I would sell off just a few more to help pay for college. Plus, I worked 30 hours a week all 4 years of college at the state seed laboratory doing germination and purity tests on seed that any farmer wanted to sell as certified seed. So between those three things, my summer employment, selling off a few of my cattle, and working 30 hours a week, I was able to get out of college with no debt. My dad thought that you only needed to do two things to be successful in life, whatever your chosen occupation was. You needed to be willing to work hard at whatever job you were doing, whether it was digging ditches or teaching school. And secondly, what little money you did make, you needed to take very good care of it and be careful of what you spent it on. Now, at least the second one of those ideals of his, I probably learned what I needed to, because I got through college. I graduated from college on May 12th, 1974. And on May 13th, 1974, I was absolutely broke. And I don't mean I just didn't have much money in the bank. I mean, I was tapped out, zero balance in the bank, had enough money in my pocket to fill up my old car with gas to make it the 225-mile trip home. Of course, gas was 35 cents a gallon then, so it didn't take quite as much money. So I remember calling home, collect, and some of you older people will know what that means. And I talked to my dad, and I had already signed a contract to start teaching high school vocational agriculture at a small rural school in southern Missouri. But that didn't start until July 1. This is, the first part of May. So I asked Dad if I could come home and live with him and Mom until I started teaching at that little school. And he said, well, sure, we'd love to have you. As a matter of fact, you're going to have to work to earn your keep. He'd semi-retired while I was away at school to a smaller farm in North Arkansas, a community where he and Mom grew up. And he'd sold the farm that I was raised on. And he was going to build a brand new home for him and my mother. Now, my dad could build anything, work with his hands, even though he had no education. He was an excellent carpenter. He could do electrical work and wire the house. He could do plumbing work and plumb the house. He could do concrete work, everything. I've never seen anything as far as construction that he wasn't able to do. So he said, you can help me build that new house. We're going to start bright and early Monday morning. Well, he had misled me a little bit. It was early Monday morning when we got started work, but it was not bright. It was a little bit before sunup. And we went out to this area where he was going to build this new house on some little acreage that he had there. And I could see that he had the outline of the house laid out with white ag lime. And he said, we need to get started on digging the footing today. And I said, what time will the backhoe be out here? And he just grinned. He said, you're it. And he pointed over to the tree there, and standing up against the tree was a pick and a couple of shovels. And I don't know how many of you have ever tried to dig around in the ground in northern Arkansas, but in the Ozark Hills of that area, it's more than just a little rocky. And so my first swing with the pick, sparks flew and kind of lit up the darkness of the pre-sunrise area. And I thought, well, I'll just have a little fun out of my dad. So I go over to him and kind of straighten my collar a little bit, and I said, Father, and I've never called him father in my life to that point. I said, you expect me to dig this footing by hand with a pick and shovel? I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Missouri. And he looked at me, kind of shook his head, and he said, okay, son, I'll show you how to use them, but just this one time. And that's one of the most valuable lessons that I've learned. You got to work hard no matter what, and you got to manage what little money you might have. I don't know that that knowledge is forgotten on how to work hard and how to manage your money, but there's a lot of people in this world, myself included, from time to time, that need a little refresher course in those subjects. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.